All right, welcome to Keefer's Korner for Week 3 recap, Week 4 preview. I'm Jeremy Nygaard. That's Nick Pack. That's Coach Keefer. Coach, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good.
So after we sat down here last week and talked about a very big, decisive win against the GET Redhawks, we opened up conference play with the Amery Warriors.
Yep.
And had a game that looked relatively similar to the prior week. Scored early, scored often, and pitched another shutout. So, what were your takeaways from last Friday night?
Well, obviously, happy with the result. It's I feel like we're getting better. You have to remember, we gave up 56 points in our first game to a very good opponent. But I really like the way our kids and our staff has responded. We're obviously making progress. We did play a heck of a second quarter. We really were we scored, I think, four times in the second quarter. And then once you get the ball rolling like that, it's tough for your opponent. I do think that Amery has some good players. They had a handful of kids that were really, really good. And I think it just kind of got down, and I do expect that they'll be competitive, I think, in certain games this year for sure. But very happy with our guys, especially defensively, and I feel like we're in a pretty good groove on offense. But we got a long way to go. There's no doubt. There's a ton of football left, and we really haven't proven anything.
So you say that, and we talked about how I thought Amy's going to be very competitive in the middle border as well. And I did say in pregame that it was not going to be 55-0.
You were right.
It wasn't. But 104, I believe, is it 104-0 now in 2 straight games? How do you go into next game like and try and keep that rolling? Like 104-0. That's good. That's not good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's different.
But it's also dangerous and poisonous.
Correct.
For kids to be, buying into that, we're this good, because we're not this good. We're really not. I mean, we got a long way to go. I reminded our guys last year we played Somerset twice, right? And people, a lot of times tend to remember the last game where we outscored them by quite a bit. The first game last year we played Somerset, it was 26-20. It was a 4-quarter game, and it was a grinder. And if you think for a second that you're not going to get the best out of Somerset's going to come with their freaking hair on fire. They lost to Northwestern week 2 in an overtime game that they clearly could have won, probably should have won, and they kind of dropped it a little bit against Osceola. I mean, they were down, they roared back, and then they turned it over late, and Osceola got a late score to beat them. So they got stung in the mouth. They got punched twice, and I guarantee you that what we're going to see, they will be fired up. They're going to come out ready to go. I have no doubt about that, and they're talented. Kane Donnelly, the quarterback, is a super talented kid. He is a kid that he's got a big arm. He can throw it, but he is very, very elusive. He breaks a lot of tackles, and if you give that kid, you give him a little space, he goes. One of their best plays is him going back to pass and running around and finding a gap, and boom, he goes. So we have a very, very legitimate challenge. They were a level 3 team last year. This is a good football team that we're playing. I expect this will be a very, very tough game. So we're there. From the coaching staff, and I believe our kids understand, we're expecting a very difficult challenge.
Well, and that goes without saying. We've struggled in Somerset. I mean, we went there in 2008, undefeated, lost, came back and redeemed ourselves in the playoffs, went there in 2010, undefeated. I mean, we had 2 chances to go through a season undefeated and for the first time in school history, and lost in Somerset. Both times we were able to go back and win in afternoon games.
Right.
It's a harder place to play. I feel like the lights are lower. It's a little bit darker. We've had more success there lately, but I mean, we went through a stretch where going to Somerset and winning a football game wasn't really something that
it was tough to do. It was very tough to do. I mean, Somerset has, they kind of really cranked that thing up like maybe mid 2000s or early 2000s. And that was one of the best programs in the state of Wisconsin, and it continues to be strong. So, yeah, it's never been easy, up in Somerset, and we expect it's going to be tough.
So before we talk, I mean, that's looking more at week 4, but week 3, some of the individual accomplishments, I was really impressed with offensively. I mean, you seamlessly were able to play Gavin at quarterback, move him to receiver. He made 2 of the better catches that I've seen a receiver make in at least the last 25 years. But the touchdown catch, he was grabbed and he's just like, that's cool. We got one arm. And then the one around the middle, the one across the middle, where he was just like,
yeah.
So how do you, like, going in? How do you game plan, knowing that you're going to use him here and also there? And how do the players around that? How does that all go down?
Well, the reason we do it, obviously, is we think it makes it more difficult for our opponents to prepare for us. If you have to prepare for Gavin at receiver and quarterback, then you have kind of almost 2 different game plans. And I would expect as the year goes on, we'll probably try to deploy him in a few different new ways, just to try to. It's a big deal. It takes. He's a especially talented kid, and we are very fortunate that we can play Joe at quarterback. Graydon can play at quarterback, and we can still run our offense pretty effectively. So that we got to take advantage of those things. So that's it. We have some creative people, and we have a lot of ideas, and I'm excited to get a couple more chapters going here before too long.
So going into games, do you have kind of a script to start off with? Like, do you have a mindset of we're going to go, the last 2 weeks has been, we're going to go Gavin at quarterback the first 2 series, and then 2 weeks ago switch to Graydon, last week switch to Jensen. Do you kind of have a game plan as far as that goes? And then also, like, the mindset of the player, like someone like Gavin, we're going to talk about him. It's Gavin the Monacan is a great threat. Now, when you can throw him out as wide receiver, and you have Jensen who can throw the ball, the mindset of the defense kind of goes towards Gavin. Mm-hmm. What do we got over here? We had a guy that you were worried about before. Mm-hmm. Kind of like we talked. I mean, I saw you see a lot when all the attention goes to a Justin Jefferson, it leaves someone else wide open. And if Gavin's plays that role, or anyone plays that role of, okay, 10 to me, I'll have else score. So that's kind of got to be nice. But do you have a mindset as to preparing yourself for the second, third, and fourth quarters in the first part of the game of, we want to see this, we want to put ourselves in this position so we know where we're going to be at in the second half?
We do, we script what we're going to do for the week, and I will always have that completed by Tuesday's practice. And then we'll practice only the plays that we're going to do. Now, we kind of have a general plan, as we're going in, like how much is, Joe going to play at quarterback, and things of that nature that we practice. But, that stuff's fluid. I mean, there are times in the game where it's just like, hey, because the other thing would be, I do feel like Gavin's growing as a quarterback. Like, he looks more confident. He's making better decisions. He's throwing it better, which is all good. Other things that have been, hugely, just really good news is how good that offensive line is. I mean, those kids are really playing some good football. And when you have 5 new starters, Will Phelps is doing a fantastic job. He understands, very consistent snapper, and he's smart and a good communicator. And man, Sam Aho and Drew Stark are both they're really good. And then those 2 kids at tackle with Murdoch and Thompson, they are just super athletic, and they're able to do things that you can't do most years. So it's really been exciting. And I would say, and they're not, they can still get better. It's not to say that there aren't things, but it's just been a really nice start of the year and I feel like guys are, they're communicating well. And I give, Coach Lehman a ton of credit. He does a heck of a job with those guys. He really does, and they're prepared and they communicate well. So that's been fun. So yeah, I got a script. Some games I follow it really closely. Some games I don't follow that thing at all. It just depends on like kind of the feel of how things are going, and sometimes you get. Yeah, we've had games where we didn't get what we expected. We kind of got what we thought we were going to get against Amery, but we didn't get what we thought against Mount Horeb, and nor did we get what we expected against GET. So who knows? But yeah, it's good.
All right, so flipping over to defense, pitch another shutout. Obviously, collectively, you need 11 guys to do that.
Yeah.
Who are the guys, though, that are maybe stepping up a little bit more than you anticipated, or showing quicker growth that you anticipated? How is that all coming together on the defensive side of the ball?
Sam Aho is playing at a very, very high level. I mean, he's a strong kid, always has been strong, but he's his strike, and he's just shedding people, and he's a big problem. I mean, people are having a very difficult time blocking him. I would also say Drew Vienendahl and Andrew Thompson, they are both really playing some good ball. Andrew has improved very significantly since the start of the year, and Drew is just, maybe he's a little quieter kid, but I'll tell you what, man, he is a really good football player. I love what's going on at linebacker with Haldorf, and Trevor Murdoch he's a good player. And Dane Vienendahl's been fantastic. I mean, we knew Dane was going to be good. He was hurt a lot last year, and we're just like, man, we wish we could have had him. But he's another one he's really good. And then, I would really spotlight, we talk about Graydon a lot, and we talk about Gavin a lot, but man, is their leadership, it's just been fantastic. Like, what they're doing is they really encourage guys to practice at a high level. Like the other day we did, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, I might have, maybe I didn't, but we did 40 plays in 23 minutes. That's really freaking good. Now today I think we did 40 plays and it took us like 27 minutes. So we're like, hey, what's going on? But you heard those guys during, it's positive. It's very positive. It's demanding, not condescending. It's really good. And, I think a lot of that can be attributed to the group that was in front of them, because those guys were really good leaders. So there's just a lot of kids that have stepped up and are playing good ball. But again, we have a long way to go. But I sure like the way they're practicing.
I think that, especially defense, a lot like offense. Offensively, your offensive line will go unnoticed more than the skill position players. But defensively, it's not the players that are making the tackles. It's more the players that are allowing them to make the tackles. So in preparation for going into Somerset, now we talk about how maybe you had struggles at Somerset. Do you prepare differently going on the road versus home games? I know, obviously, bigger crowd at home, but crowd isn't a huge factor in high school. Maybe it is a factor, don't get me wrong, but preparation-wise, going on the road, is that a big difference as opposed to playing at home?
I think the biggest difference for us when we're going on the road, if we're playing against a road team that's on grass, like we're on grass all week. We're practicing. We're not even stepping on King Field this week. Although, like that grass is it's so daggone hard. It's been dry, so it's kind of like running around in a parking lot down there compared to the turf. But I just think that I think it helps us to practice on grass. It's different. It's different playing on grass. So I like practicing on it. So that would be, I think, the biggest. Other than that, not a lot. We're just doing our deal. I was very impressed at our crowd. I glanced up there. My grandson came to the game, which was kind of cool for me. But so I looked up there a couple different times just to kind of see how he was doing. I was like, man, that dang thing was almost full. And with the Packers playing on a Friday night, I was like, that's pretty good. So we appreciate the support. Pretty cool.
So last thing I want to ask about special teams. We had the one kick return called back.
Yep.
I think we also failed to convert on our first 2-point conversion. Yep. It was a snap that kind of funny.
We fumbled a snap. Yep.
Gavin made the younger Wallen kid look pretty silly in isolation. on one of those 2-point plays. But overall, I mean, our special teams played.
Yeah,
really well.
we got a partial block.
Yep.
Partial block of a punt. I understand. The hold on the kick return. It's okay. I understand. Sometimes officials, if the game is not close and you see something that's close, they're more inclined to flag that, and I'm all right with that. That's hopefully that's something that we can learn from. And you don't do it again. So we can learn from a situation that wasn't like, tilting the outcome of the game. Right. But yeah, I'd rather have them do it that way.
So I got to ask you about our upcoming game, special teams, because we have 2 different kickers that we use for place kicks and for kickoffs.
Yeah.
They have a soccer game on Friday.
They do.
So how do
we won't have them? So there will be none of the soccer kickers will be around. We have other kids that can kick. So, we've had a few different kids kicking off this week, anticipating it. In fact, we did today. And we'll make a decision on that a little bit later in the week. But we have multiple kids that can kick the ball, get it down at least inside the 20. We may not be quite as consistent, but, they hit a good one, they can get it in the end zone. And if they don't, it's still down there pretty good. And we got it covered anyway. So, unless something changes, that's kind of our plan going in.
And I think I know where this is going to go, but however, we talk about that soccer kickers playing 2 sports at one time. As far as a football coach, I mean, let's talk about multi-sport athletes. I mean, would you rather a guy be like, hey, I'm diehard football, diehard this, eat, breathe, sleep football 12 months out of the year, or go play basketball, go wrestle, go run track, go play baseball, go golf, insert any sport? I mean, to me, there's nothing about the competition, being competitive and that competitive edge and just the burnout side. But I know this answer, but what's your philosophy on kids being multi-sport athletes?
We encourage 100% of our kids to be multi-sport athletes. In fact, if there's a kid that just says, I want to come in the weight room, I will try to talk them out of that and say, no, it's better for you to play basketball. It's better for you to play hockey. It's better for you to wrestle, whatever it might be. Because I really believe that. I think the multi-sport kids in a school our size, it's not only is it's good for your athletic development. It's good for every team. It's good you're mixing with different kids. It's important. You're learning so many different things. I really don't like the specialization. We have, and I'm not saying there isn't a time for a kid to, specialize. I understand everybody's got a unique circumstance, but the thing is, competing is what it's all about. And this time goes so fast for high school kids, and you don't realize it. And I've told this to many, many kids, as I try to encourage and recruit kids to play. And it's the truth. If you look over the history of time, I've never had a football player that said to me, man, I wish I would have never played football. I've never had it happen. But I'm not embellishing when I say I've had 100 kids that chose to not play that will come up to me after the fact and say, that's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, was not playing. I should have listened. I'm like, well, I wish you would have. You're right, because you don't get that time back. So, but kids, everybody, everybody's different. People have different circumstances. They have different things in their life that they think are important, and that's okay. It's just you always want to make kids feel welcome, and hey, being honest, playing football is not easy. If you want to be good, it's going to take a lot of dedication. And I look at guys like Gavin. I look at guys like Graydon. I look at guys like Sam Aho. I look at guys like Will Phelps. I look at guys like Aiden Foster. These are some guys that really work. The Veenendals, Dane, Drew Veenendal. I mean, you get the theme. All the names I'm saying are guys that are really, really dedicated, and they're dedicated while they're playing another sport. play basketball or play hockey. Get your buddy in the morning. Shop's open. Come in. We don't expect the same out of a kid that's out of season lifting, but we do expect them to keep growing and getting better. That's just, if you want to be good, that's what it takes. So
it's funny you mentioned a bunch of seniors, and then you mentioned Aiden Foster.
Yeah.
Who's a sophomore, who,
yes,
from our perspective, the kid's making tackles in space on kickoffs, then getting involved offensively, catching passes.
Yes.
Like,
bright future.
And it's fun for me to see, because it's like these guys, I'm not going to the JV games, which I'm going to ask you about next.
Yeah.
But you have guys showing up on Friday nights.
Right.
And it's like, that's how and you don't get a huge opportunity.
Right.
And I tell my 8th graders that, I'm like, if you're counting your opportunities, we're going to have a problem. If you're making your opportunities count, now you're going to play more.
Right.
And it's like watching Aiden Foster tackle a guy in space, which is difficult, and doing it really well.
Yes.
Is only going to get him more opportunities.
Yeah. No, he's really, he had a great off season, and it's important to him, and he's doing a great job there. I don't know if he's probably caught at least 3 or 4 passes, and he's, they've all been pretty, significant gains. He's physical. He's a hard worker, and like you said, he's taking advantage of opportunities. As you do that, you get more opportunities, and that's outstanding. And that'll change. I mean, throughout the year, there are guys that are going to get chances. And
speaking of opportunities, before I ask you about Monday's JV games, we talked last week about Logan Johnson having 3 pick sixes.
Mm-hmm.
Right before.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's right there, man.
Because it was a fumble, right? It wasn't an interception.
Yeah, it was a fumble.
And he picks it up, and we're like, "Who's that?" It's like,
is he
going to do it?
Yeah, and we talked about that. That's the one time. Well, not the only time, but it would have been smart for him to maybe try to lateral it if you didn't think, because it's the last play of the half. Right. Great scoop and score, or attempt to score. And he tried to cut back. I think if he would have just kept going, I think he was tired.
From all the questions on Monday.
Yeah, probably so. But no, Logan has certainly a kid that did well in the JV game and got more opportunities in the varsity game and taking advantage of those. That's how it works, So that's good to see.
On Monday, you went to Amery. Well, I don't know if you probably didn't go.
I did not go personally.
But our guys christened the new field.
That was the first game played. Our freshmen played the first game. The freshmen won 30-20. And the JV won, I believe, 34-14. So that's great. It's good for morale. It's very difficult, man, especially when you got a home game and you're a sophomore, because we'll have them practice with us, and then they go out and play a football game. That's not easy to do, right? I mean, but we can't afford to not practice. You need guys. We're mindful of their. Try to, not put too much on them, but we still need them. So that's a tough deal, and it's hard when you're a sophomore. It really is. So you get through that sophomore year, and then things get a little easier. But that sophomore year is a tough year.
And we talked a little bit before we started getting on there about how winning is fun. Winning creates a culture. And we talked about how Coach Nygaard's team won today, and he talked about how you have some freshmen now are like looking at, hey, I want to play football, and it's a lot easier to do when you're a successful program.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna flip it a little bit. I think the culture happens first, and then the winning comes. You know what I mean? Winning obviously makes things easier to sustain, but I don't think you win if you don't have the good culture of working hard and like understanding what our standards are, and this is how we do things. I think that stuff's got to happen first, and then I think the winning is kind of not 100%, but to a certain extent, a product of that. Of having kids be on the same page, and it's not like what I'm saying, because we try to have an impact, but it's the kids, and we try to have a shared vision, and so that's cool. It's a fun thing.
So like when you go have these JV games and sophomore games or JV2, whatever they're called,
yeah.
How much are your upperclassmen diving into that? Like, hey, great job on that. I'm assuming they're supporting it
when it's a home game. In fact, this is a thing I just talked to a few guys the other day. So because we had 2 home, JV games back-to-back weeks. We had some of our JV or some of our varsity kids around the sideline. They're kind of playing catch and goofing around a little bit. And I said, hey, you know what? If you guys stop doing that, and why don't you watch the game and talk to the kids at your position and give them some feedback and be excited, because what you're doing then is we're creating a tighter bond, right? And it's not like, hey, we're here to help you. We're trying to help each other out. They help us all the time. On game day, it'd be awful nice if we could help them. So that's something that I think we're hopefully going in.
So after the game Friday, it was a quick game.
Yep.
Allowed you to maybe watch a little bit of the end of I watched the end of the Somerset Osceola game first.
Yeah, I did too.
Somerset they make a long pass.
Yeah.
Penalty calls back. But then
they had twice. They had 2 times they had big plays. One was a touchdown called back.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Because they aligned, they had an illegal formation. They only had 6 on the line of scrimmage.
Ooh.
I think it was a thing. It wasn't like a super complex thing, but they just had, I think the wide receiver just looked at where the slot was. The slot was way back, so this kid's like, well, I'm usually just a little bit in front of him.
He was off
and he was off by like 1.5 yards. So it wasn't like a ticky tack one. It was the kid was way back. So the ref called it right away.
So after that game ends, then you get an opportunity to turn on the NFL game.
Yeah, I caught. I think I tuned into the pack with about 9 minutes left. So it's disappointing that they lost. I'm not shocked that they lost. Obviously, the Jordan Love thing, that's a big deal. But they didn't put him on IR, so that's probably a good sign. So we'll see.
And your Saturday was then okay after a Packer loss? I saw you Saturday morning, and you looked to be in pretty good spirits. I've seen you on a lot of Mondays back when I was in high school. And
that's kind of a little bit of a bit, just for the effect in the classroom. Like I'd come in and I'd be like, "Hey, the Packers lost. You guys are in trouble today." But
that was a
little bit.
Any more questions? You got any more for Coach? You got one, I bet.
That's funny because I do remember being in college and it was being a Viking fan, unfortunately, as my calc professor walked in and slammed his books down and he's like, how do you not allow a team to punt the entire game? That was the year they were 15-1 and Tampa Bay beat them and they didn't punt. But so anyway, we're looking forward to Somerset. And now, you're 1-0 in the conference.
Right.
Let's talk conference play. We talk 4 wins to get playoffs. What's the mindset going into Somerset? Again, a team I think that we talked about, I had them as one of the top teams in the conference. The other 2 kind of maybe played against each other last week. We had Ellsworth beaten Central pretty handily, I think. Prescott, I think, also is another younger team from last year that played really well. Could be another threat for the conference championship. But you talk Somerset off of 2 losses in a row.
Yeah.
They're thinking we need 4 of the next 6. That's tough.
It is tough.
To get in the playoffs.
It is.
It's not do or die.
Yeah.
But what's the mindset going into Somerset now?
Well, like I said, the mindset is that we're going to play a really good football team. We expect to get their best. And we know that we're going to have to, play a clean, smart, tough football game to win this game. That's the way we got to do it. I would, if I was going to predict, do I think Somerset will wind up being a playoff team? I think absolutely they will be a playoff team. I'd be very surprised if they weren't. That's no disrespect to anybody else in the league. I just think that they have a lot of, that quarterback is something, and they have a lot of. They got some good kids up front. There's some good stuff there. They could very easily be 3-0, right? So we know what we're getting. Our kids are not looking at this like, this is a cakewalk. And you got to understand, there are other coaches, there's a lot of really good coaches. Scott Newton is a fantastic football coach, and he, you're watching that game, the Somerset game. Somerset turned it over a couple times. Osceola didn't move the ball a whole bunch. Osceola hit a couple long passes. That was enough. You know, they scored on a short field. I think they scored a 10-yard drive and at the end of the game, a 20-some-yard drive after turnovers. And between, they had a couple long plays, but they didn't, possess the ball a ton. Somerset roared back and took the lead, and it looked like they got the ship righted, and then a late turnover and boom, So, the league is competitive. And if you think that you got somebody like you can overlook, you're going to get beat. It's proven. It's absolutely proven. It doesn't matter who it is. So, like the whole, 104-0 thing, I hate that because that's just poison. It is. It really is. It's a true, I'm not trying to call Nick Saban on you, but it is. It's dangerous. But I believe that the kids understand that we're playing a good team, and we can always remind them of 56 points to Mount Horeb Barneveld and 26-20 last year. I don't think that's too tough a sell. This is a good team.
What was your reaction to the Ellsworth Central score?
Ellsworth's a good team. I expected Ellsworth to be very, very good. Not to say Central's not, but I guess I wasn't shocked by that.
Is Ellsworth they're super physical up front?
They're good. They got a good. Those kids are always tough. Ellsworth kids play hard. They're well coached. They always seem to have kids. You don't necessarily know who they are, but every year you look at Ellsworth. They always have a lot of tough kids. I mean, look what they've done. They've been tough over the last 5 years.
Well, yeah, I mean,
7.
COVID year, they were the best Division IV team in the state.
That's going to be 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, and that if we play that out, they join a handful of other middle border teams as state champs.
Probably would
in the last 20 years,
right?
Because that was, when Mason Anderson was their quarterback, and they had all those linemen.
They were good.
They were so good. It was really a bummer as a fan of football.
Yeah, it was. I felt bad for them too. Yeah.
Play that out.
Yeah, you'd like to get your opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else for Coach? All right. So the good news about Friday is that Somerset built a new press box.
Oh, that's good.
So on the back side, we actually get a booth spot this year. We've been broadcasting from the stands. We're just the people watching the game with the headset, which we really are, just the people. But yeah, we're going to get our own spot next to the coaches. So nice. It sounds like we're going to, not have to be the people that are looking back at us for was that a penalty? And so we'll get a booth. So
that's good.
We will be in Somerset on Friday. And it's supposed to be a nice day again. We've had wonderful weather to start the season, which is
great,
which is fantastic. So we'll see you Friday night. That's Nick. I'm Jeremy, Coach Keefer. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you on Friday. So long.
All right.
All right. I got a question. I got a rules question for you. Oh. So you'll appreciate this because it's today.